Hello, everyone. How are you doing? This is Daryl Guberman, CEO of Guberman PMC LLC, a quality consulting firm here in Connecticut. The crux of the data concerning this video is down below. This video today, because I just got back from doing some consulting work at several of my customers, and several of them are veterans. And when they heard this, they said, "I never even knew about that." Well, some of them knew about Lockheed Martin purchasing Sikorsky aircraft in 2015 from United Technologies. But they didn't know the litany. They didn't know the litany that was involved, the story that was involved with it. Well, let me just tell you. The title of this video is FBI's Christopher Wray, the poster clown of the International Accreditation Forum's anti-American global agenda. Yes, but before we continue on with this, I want to show you a little bit of background because this is what spurned this title and this video. I told all my customers, I went to go see, 4 of them this morning, different places in the state. And we were talking about, China. We're talking about the failure in our government to really do the right thing in many ways. And as you already know, we don't have to even discuss it, but what I did was I explained to them 3 out of 4 were veterans. And I told them about what transpired. And I'm going to give you business owners the same thing and fellow citizens, the same scenario that I gave. In 2009, Lockheed Martin got hacked from China, taking the F-35 fighter. I've showed you that time and time again. You'll find all the data, as I said, in the description under this video. So they got hacked by China. In 2012, a division of United Technologies gets hacked by China, taking a lot of the Black Hawk, Seahawk, T-700 engine, etc. 2015, Lockheed Martin purchases Sikorsky for $9 billion. Yet, they have to get China's okay because China is an international regulator. Can you imagine that? At that same time in 2015, the International Accreditation Forum, which has all these accreditation bodies on there, like ANSI and ANAB and others, that are considered an International Accreditation Forum multilateral arrangement, or an IAF MRA, which is an International Accreditation Forum multi-regional accreditation or agreement. So it was handed over to a communist Chinese national. You'll see this in the video. But in the Connecticut Mirror, it stated this: with China's okay, Lockheed Martin to close on Sikorsky purchase. And the unbelievable is that our representation in Connecticut, Rosa DeLauro, Richard Blumenthal, Christopher Murphy, and Jim Himes praise our #1 military contractor, Lockheed Martin, for working with a communist China. And it says, but Connecticut's lawmakers praise Lockheed Martin for clearing its last regulatory hurdle. Now, my customers didn't know about that. Many of them knew that Lockheed bought Sikorsky, but they didn't know that Jim Himes loved the fact and approved the fact that Lockheed dealt with communist China. And look what Christopher Wray is saying. And we will get to Christopher Wray very shortly. He's appalled about how China is, and that it's a detriment to our way of living here. But Jim Himes approves it. You also have Richard Blumenthal, another one, who approves it, gives him a thumbs up. Lockheed Martin for working with communist China. We also have Christopher Murphy, who came down here from wherever he was, maybe Washington, who knows where he's partying at the time. But he also approves it. And the funniest thing too is we have over here Rosa DeLauro. Hold on. She's been in office too long. And she also approves it. I think they're all dressed up in their cheerleading outfit and doing it. Yet they didn't listen to Christopher Wray, who stated so many times, even before 2015-16, that China is a detriment, Unbelievable. We have in the wings of Mr. Randy Doherty. Randy Doherty is out of commission now, from what I understand. He has been a low level for a long while, possibly because he's been a poster child for many of my videos. it's a long story. One day we will do a video just on Randy and the FUPAs. He didn't know what an official certificate was supposed to have. He said in a letter to us when he was the vice president of ANAB, the chairman of the IAF, and also the principal on the IAF tax report, he said an official cert must have the accreditation body's mark in it. But you read on the ANAB website, it stated, and I quote, an official cert must have both the registration and the accreditation body's mark. So here he is, the VP of Quality at that time, and also the chairman and the principal on the IAF tax report incorporated in Delaware did not know. On top of it, Randy wrote us in 2014 a note. And in this, I said to him, under what regulatory authority does ANAB operate? He said, as I mentioned earlier, ANAB is an ANSI-ASQ. At the time, it was ANSI-ASQ. Now it's ANSI-ANAB because they took over at the time when he wrote it. ANSI owned ANAB, the American National Crediting Board, 50%, and ASQ, American Society for Quality, owned ANAB 50%. Continue on. We are a limited liability corporation, 50-50. By ANSI and ASQ, we are not operating under any governmental regulatory authority with the exception of being a legal entity. Any authority we have is by having our accreditation services accepted and recognized by the marketplace. Becoming a signatory IAF MLA contributes to this recognition and acceptance. Well, let me show you this. He said they had nothing to do. ANAB is not embedded with anything. They're a separate entity altogether. Well, you pull back the skin of that lying onion, which it is, and you find out that the National Institute of Standards and Technology sits on ANSI's board right over by ANAB, and they are also a paid member, okay, of the board of ANSI. NIST is. NIST is a component of the Department of Commerce. They also run the nist-mep, and their national vulnerability database that they also run in 2013 got hacked by China. Okay, and you take a look at this. NIST runs the nist-mep, which is the Manufacturing Extension Partnership, 50 strong throughout 50 states, where they both get federal and state monies, where 64.85% of those funds go to pay their management and personnel. And we had a person write, because there was an article written about this mess concerning me and NIST and all the rest of this stuff. And and what happened is the lady wrote, who was a former employee, said, you know what the big joke was, Daryl, in the office here? And she said the big joke was that we used to give money to not-for-profits. They would give money to us, and we used to jokingly call it money laundering. Isn't it nice? So Randy said that, okay? He said that we are not operating under any government regulatory authority with the exception of being a legal entity. Yes, but he has, that organization is part of the government regulatory organization. Like, here's Gordon Gillerman from NIST. He's making $120,000 plus his government salary. He gets a royalty payment. We have the definition of what a royalty payment is very shortly coming up. Also sitting on ANSI's board, getting financially compensated. Again, remember what Randy said. He said that we are not operating under any governmental authority or regulatory authority with the exception of being a legal entity, yet they are colluding with these organizations. You have the Department of Homeland Security, which we will get into when I show you the flow chart concerning this. We have a Mr. Phil Masterson who is getting compensated from from not only ANSI, but from the federal government where he gets his salary. A royalty payment is not designated by the royalty payment is not designated by the IRS. It's like you can get taxed, maybe taxed, not taxed. Well, let's go into this now. You have ANSI, the American National Standards Institute, is a private, not-for-profit, non-governmental entity, yet they have government agencies getting compensated from ANSI. Thus, when Randy states that they are not, and I will read it again, when Randy states in 2014, when he was the vice president, who did not know an official cert from a non-official cert, as both the ANAB, vice president and also the chairman of the International Accreditation Forum, who's supposed to watch over all these accreditation bodies, both foreign and domestic, and he said, "We are not operating under any governmental regulatory authority." Well, let me tell you something. By them compensating a government authority, they are part of it, business. Don't let him BS you. And we're going to continue on. In 2015, Randy was the vice president of ANAB, the chairman of the IAF. His term of office was from 2009 to 2015. He was also the principal and chairman on the IAF. He was the chairman of the IAF and the principal in the tax report 990. He handed over leadership to Zhao Jinwu. He's coming up too. We have a picture of him in Wuhan, China, handing over a certificate, an ISO 17025 certificate for laboratory accreditation. He is also mandated by his country of origin to take your data through the China National Intelligence Law, Article number 7. ANSI took over complete control over ANAB in 2018. You have federal agencies and corporations. Now here comes the good part. Randy in 2017 was being advertised on the Department of Homeland Security with Phil Masterson. He wasn't being advertised, but he was sitting on ANSI's board getting compensated at the time. He was being advertised. We did a video on it, and they took him down because he's a private concern. That's like having Uber being advertised, or General Electric being advertised, or Guberman PMC being advertised on a federal agency. You just can't do it. Well, he was. Maybe because Phil Matheson was getting compensated by the DHS, and they could figure a little interplay there. So that's it. He complimented, by the way, Zhao Jinwu has been involved with our quality since 1994. He also, Randy, in 2016, complimented the factor in an IAF article that Zhao Jinwu has been involved with our quality since 1994, and that his congratulations was that he was promoted to chairman. The funny thing is, business owners, when Randy was on the DHS, and even before that, you have China, who is mandated, Zhao Jinwu was mandated to take your data through the China National Intelligence Law, Article number 7. So isn't there a little bit of funny stuff going on possibly between Randy and between Zhao Jinwu? They're buddies, aren't they? One's communist who's mandated to take your data. And by the way, every one of those federal agencies that sit on ANSI have gotten their data taken. The FBI, the NIH, the CDC, the USDA, the FAA, FDA, all of them. They all got EPA, OSHA, they've all gotten it. Department of Defense. In China, there are over 10 different registrars that ANAB can, that they can certify it with an ANAB accreditation. You also have the factor that ANSI-ANAB between 2015 and 2021 sat on the IAF, International Accreditation Forum, being controlled and manipulated by China. And the worst thing is those people who are part of these organizations are very close to Iran and Pakistan that sit on the IAF. So what is that telling us? Impropriety, where you have Iran and Pakistan who basically admitted to harboring some of the terrorists of 9/11. You have Pakistan who harbored Osama bin Laden that killed over 3,000 Americans. Yet you have ANSI and ANAB sitting very close. And by the way, Iran and Pakistan are IF MLAs, which means their accreditation is just as good as ANAB. Maybe better because they got machine guns. So now we have the man of the hour. We have Mr. Christopher Wray. And this video again is about FBI's Christopher Wray, the poster clown of IAF's anti-American global agenda. Yes, and I'm going to tell you why and show you. Christopher Wray says at all these meetings, beating his Chinese-manufactured drum and wearing his China-manufactured FBI tag. I don't know what happened again with his bulbous nose and his flappy feet, clown shoes. I don't know if the government could buy it because those clown shoes go for probably $7,000 for a pair, like the hammer, the military hammer years ago, $700 hammer and a $500 toilet seat, something to that nature. It wasn't like that. But anyway, getting back to this in all seriousness, he'd always say the whole of the Chinese society is a threat to the United States and that Americans must step up to defend themselves. Well, how are we going to defend themselves, Chris, when you have Rosa DeLauro, Chris Murphy, Jim Himes, and Richard Blumenthal in Connecticut all going like this to China? and Lockheed's collaboration. What does that say? That's where he's a clown. And here we go. Here goes even proof. We have a contract that was signed by the FBI and ANAB for their laboratory certification. Isn't that a tender moment? If you want a copy of it, I'll gladly send it to you. On top of it, you have the FBI. You will also see, I think we also have the Department of Justice sits on ANSI's board as well. And here we go, the man of the hour as well. We have Zhao Jinwu. Zhao Jinwu. At the time, he was the chairman of the IAF, incorporated in Delaware, as I told you. He is handing the quality certificate of ISO 17025 to the Bio-Level 4 Hazard Lab in Wuhan, China, the one that released the COVID virus, and that Pamela Sale confessed that yes, it is very possible that because of lack of protocol within the laboratory structure, that virus was released. We have her here as well. And there you go. Isn't that a tender moment in a virus-ridden society? Now, we're going to tell you this. Anthony Fauci, where is he? He's here. Here he is. Oh, isn't it a tender moment? Anthony Fauci, the head of the part of the NIH, the mouthpiece for COVID injections, the mouthpiece for COVID in general. His organization, along with the CDC, and you'll see that shortly, sit on ANSI's board, okay, right over by China. We also have a procedure that was written in 2019 May concerning bio-level hazard 4 laboratory training in China. And the only lab they mention within the whole book lit is Wuhan, China. Isn't that a cluster? If you want that procedure, I have a copy. Please call me 203-556-1493 or CEO at, it's not CEO anymore, actually it's CEO-gubermanpmc.com, but this is the better email. It's Daryl, Daryl, TQRS at yahoo.com. So we're going to continue on. So Anthony Fauci, let's bring it one more time. Anthony Fauci was being inquisitioned by Senator Rand Paul about his knowledge about gain-of-function research. He said, I don't know anything. I don't know anything about it. Nope, don't know anything. Well, here is an article that we took from a Chinese periodical, a magazine that was converted to English. And it says, upcoming events, second China-U.S. workshop on the challenges of emerging infections, laboratory safety, and global health security. And here it is. And I want you to see just the first bullet point. I will gladly send you this. Call me, write me. I will send you a copy. I'll even send you the entire booklet we're going to show to you. Gain-of-function research. Gain-of-function. So we look at all of this, and you say to yourself, well, you know, what are you getting at, Daryl? I'm getting at the factor that Christopher Wray, his organization, is very immersed in China. And we're going to keep on showing this to you because this is absolutely ridiculous. Second page in, you have a picture that I showed you that's blown up, though, of Zhao Jinwu at the time. He's part of the China, he's the chief executive of the China National Accreditation Services in Beijing, China, and also he's the chairman of the American-based Delaware Incorporated International Accreditation Forum. He's the chairman. Isn't that a testimony? And by the way, he was on their tax report, 990, for many, many years. So here we go. As I told you, NIH is on board. You also have the CDC, okay? Let's see if I have him here. I don't know if I have him. I think I do. Oh, yes, here we go. We do have him. So we have Johnson & Johnson sitting there. And by the way, talking about quality procedures going in awry, here they are. Here's Johnson & Johnson. A lot of their suppliers and subcontractors, all accredited by ANSI-ANAB and other accreditation bodies that sit on the IAF, okay? Yet they had over 60 million vials of COVID vaccine taken back, recalled because of skipping quality standards and processes. And they sit on supposedly the Dalai Lama of accreditation and quality and voluntary consensus standards. You also have the factor of the FDA sitting there. Again, you have USDA. And I'm going to show you this. This is funny because the FDA sits on ANSI's board and ANAB's board. And they approved ANAB. FDA expands ANAB recognition under the accredited third-party certification program. If you don't call that bid rigging, I don't know what you can call it. And you also have Pfizer. You have Pfizer, and we have a special guest. We have Albert Bourla here from Pfizer. Don't do it. I'm a 59-year-old man. I don't need to take it. I'm not in the front line. Daryl, don't tell me. Let me bite your neck. Listen, this is not it. Albert, please calm yourself down. And that's exactly what he said. He said, I'm a 59-year-old man. I'm very healthy. I'm not in the front line. I didn't want to skip. As the CEO, Bela Lugosi, actually Dracula, i.e. Albert Bourla, should have been the first one in line taking that. And now we go a little bit further. Here she is, the woman of the hour. Vice President of Laboratory Accreditation. I'm sorry about the length of this, but you got to keep this litany going, because if I stop and break this up, you'll lose function here. You won't be able to keep track. So I do it all in one shot. It may be 30 minutes long. Hopefully we can get it under that. But here is Pamela Sale. At the time, she was the Vice President of Accreditation for Laboratory. ASCLD sat on ANSI's board over by ANAB. And over by ASCLD lab. You'll find all the data down below. But here she is confessing not only to the lab faux that happened in Texas, but to every laboratory, no matter what type of lab it is. And this is what she said under deposition. One of the issues is that there is no commonly agreed upon set of standards that forensic labs around the country have to follow. Instead, there are informal guidelines that labs can choose to follow or not. And we also discovered this for those of you who lost family members who want to go after China because of them releasing the virus. Well, you have Pamela Sale who confessed to it. And give me a call and I will gladly send you this information for your attorney. The only thing I warn you when it comes to your attorney is that the American Bar Association and the Department of Justice, let's see if we have it here. No, we did have it. The Department of Justice sits on ANSI's board as well. So you have a problem with that. You have to really find an attorney that's going to be on your side, not one that deals with both you as the plaintiff and the defendant side, because they collude together. 85% of people questioned in a courtroom situation, both plaintiff and defendant, all said, 85% of them said they believe that their attorney colluded. So you have Pamela Sale stating that that lab more than likely released the COVID virus. They have no protocols. It's ad hoc, whatever. So we also looked further, and we found out that ANAB is an underwriter for the International Accreditation Forum and the International Laboratory Accreditation Cooperation. So if something goes awry in those laboratories or in any aerospace, automotive, electronics, pharmaceutical, medical, etc., any arena, their words usually are this: we only certify the system, not the product. Well, that is negated. That doesn't count anymore, because when ANAB says that ANSI-ANAB says that they are underwriters, that whole statement is it's gone, it's tossed out. This is what an underwriter is. An underwriter is any underwriter. An underwriter is any party that evaluates and assumes another party's risk for a fee. Isn't that a tender moment? And the last thing is this. For those of you who think that I'm BSing or what are you doing, Daryl, let me just say this. On a government contract, they're bid rigging. The government agency bid rigged, meaning that they will only accept ANSI, ANAB, and IAF, and at the time was 2018. Remember, Communist China had the IAF control between 2015 and 21. So what happened is our government agency who wrote this thing, and we spoke to the government contracting officer who gave us a sheet who says we only accept IAF and ANAB and all the rest of this mess, unbelievably bid rigging. This means that ANAB takes ANSI-ANAB takes full responsibility for anything that goes wrong in any industry. If you need an expert witness, I'll gladly be one. Because you know something? When you have these people, when you have a Russ Cheney from ANSI in 2019, because I exposed this whole mess with accreditation for laboratory, call me up and leave me on the phone, half a nut, fuck you. When you have organizations like Lockheed Martin with Jim Tasick, and you have David Calhoun from Boeing, you have Andrew Updegrove, a super attorney between 2004 and 2022, sit on that board, along with Microsoft, along with so many other organizations, Alexandra Morakis, from the DHS. He has people sitting there. What's it saying about our federal agencies and corporations? Half a nut, fuck you? Unbelievable. And we're going to bring out one more time Christopher Wray. Christopher Wray, who says that we must maintain vigilance, yet between 2015 and 21, his organization was kissing China's tuchus. And that is why he's dressed in a clown suit. Maybe he doesn't know. Maybe he doesn't care. Maybe he's got the same script over and over again. I'm going to leave it here, business owners and my fellow citizens, but we had to get this out. This video, again, is about FBI's Christopher Wray, the poster clown of the International Accreditation Forum's anti-American global agenda. And it is. And my telephone number is 203-556-1493 or Daryl, TQRS@yahoo.com. I give this to you again. And as Thomas Paine said, hold on a sec. Wake up, for God's sake. What he said, when speaking the truth, it is many times like administering medication to the dead. And I hope you're not dead.